You are listening to the Adult Sabbath School lessons for the third quarter of 2022. This is lesson number 10 of the Adult Sabbath School Bible Study Guide in the Crucible with Christ. The lesson is titled Meekness in the Crucible and is ready for teaching on September 3. The author is Pastor Gavin Anthony, who was conference president in Iceland when he wrote this series of lessons. Today, your lesson is read by Dr. Percy Harrold. Tuesday, August 30. Loving those who hurt us. Someone once said, "Loving your enemies, then, does not mean that we are supposed to love the dirt in which the pearl is buried. Rather, it means that we love the pearl which lies in the dust." God does not love us because we are by nature lovable, but become lovable because He loves us. When you look at your enemies, what do you normally see? The pearl or the dirt around it? Read Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 48. Jesus calls us to love and pray for our enemies. What example from nature does Jesus give us there that helps us understand why we should love our enemies? What's the point He is teaching us here? Matthew 5, beginning at verse 43. "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbour and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For He makes His sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect." In Matthew 5, verse 45, which read, "That you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for He makes His sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust," Jesus uses the example of His Father in heaven to illustrate how we should treat those who hurt us, who perhaps put us in the worst kind of crucibles. Jesus says that His Father sends the blessing of rain to both the righteous and the unrighteous. If God gives even the unjust rain, how then should we treat them? Jesus isn't trying to say that we should always have warm, fuzzy feelings toward everyone who causes us trouble, though this also may be possible. Fundamentally, love for our enemies is not meant to be a feeling we have for them, but specific actions toward them that reveal care and consideration. Jesus concludes this passage with a verse that often causes a lot of debate. "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect," verse 49. But the meaning is very clear in the context. Those people who want to be perfect as God is perfect must show love to their enemies as God shows love to His. To be perfect in God's sight is to love the opposition, and to do this takes a meekness of heart that only God can give. And so to finish today, keeping in mind our definition of meekness, enduring injury with patience and without resentment, list the changes you must make in order to allow the Lord to give you the kind of meekness of heart that will help you have the right attitude toward enemies. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.